Hey guys. So we've gone through a lot. We've gone through what it was like when my son was born, being a single mom, dating and being a mom, all that. I'm going to go through, it's not going to be as exciting, but I'm going to go through a little bit of what it was like after we got married. Um, we did get married October 2020. So we did get married in the middle of the pandemic, which had its ups and downs. On the downside, it was the middle of a pandemic. It was hard. But at the same time, we got to have very few people. It was a very small engagement. It was very intimate for us. Um, Saved a lot on, you know, spending a bunch on food and drinks and all that kind of stuff. And it was still a really, really wonderful um, experience. My wedding hands down was exactly what I ever pictured it being. Um, it was all the way down to the people that were part of it, which was not a very large group of people. I can, rattle off the people that were there off the top of my head. Me and my husband, my son, my mom, my dad, my brothers, and their significant others, my two very best friends. My one friend, her husband was there, as well as her daughter, who was my flower girl, my aunt, and one of her very good friends, and then my brother's friend from ever and ever and ever. And so that was our small gathering. That was our small collection of people. And I've always called it my circle. It's my very, very, very small circle of people, but it's the people that I hold closest to me. And they're the ones that are most important. Now, like I said, my friend's daughter, she was my flower girl. My son was the ring bearer. And then my very good friend, she was actually officiant, where she was able to marry us. The only person that was there that wasn't somebody that I was generally close with was the photographer. And she, even then, I didn't know her. She was amazing. And she made sure to capture every moment from that day that I definitely wanted captured. So that was a really magical day for me. Um, Planning the wedding, I got the dress that I wanted. I got the people that I wanted to be there. The vows, we wrote, I want to say we wrote our own vows, but I actually wrote our vows that we used, which they were not traditional. They were our own. And afterwards, we had our moment of time together, and then we got to enjoy that time with everyone around us, just kind of being in the moment. So, as far as our wedding day, that was a really important day for me. And then moving forward from that was it was interesting. Um, I had been living with my parents since my son was born, so for 7 years, I lived with my parents, and once we got married, we kind of, I stayed at my husband lived literally a street behind my parents. Um, and so, you know, getting married, I moved in with him, since he had his own place, and he made sure to have a place where there was room for all of us. Um, but I moved in with him. So did Gabriel. Gabriel had his own room, his own space, his own area. Now he had that at my mom's house, but now he had it at his own house. Getting to be, living together, uh, everything that entailed, my husband had already dealt with it in some capacity, on some level, as far as parenting Gabriel, keeping him safe, disciplining him, keeping him busy, things like that. He had already kind of been accustomed to. What we had to get used to was kind of how we do things on a day to day basis. And we really, I don't wanna say we didn't keep anything that we always do. There's things that I've always done that will never change. There's things that he's done that he'll never change. But there's things that we've decided to do differently as far as, parenting and marriage, um, just because it made more sense. Um, so as far as, household chores, that's not on any one person. We share those. As far as grocery shopping, that's not on any one person. We share that chore. Um, so we just kind of figured out what worked best for us. We made a point early on to keep communication as open as possible. Um, Making sure that we're talking to each other, making sure that we're, telling each other how we're feeling or if anything's wrong, things like that. That was a struggle for me. Um, I've always had a really hard time saying something's wrong. I don't like confrontation. So if something's wrong, I am more inclined to leave it alone than to deal with it. But I have learned that if I deal with it, things can get better. So I've been working on specifically saying when something's wrong and asking for help. Those are things that I've had to learn, and we've had to learn different things over the marriage. We haven't been married that long. It's only been, a year and a half, if that, not even. So we're still kind of getting used to each other, but I think we're off to a good start. We do have good communication. I don't want to say we fight. Honestly, after all the years that we've been together, we've still never fought. And it's been 5.5 years that we've been together, and we've never had a really big blow up argument. Um, and I've kind of been, waiting because everybody talks about having, these big, huge fights with their significant others, and we haven't really had that. Um, we're doing okay. We keep communication open. We talk things through. Sometimes if stuff bothers me, I do bottle it up. But Chris is really good at recognizing, hey, babe, something's wrong, and we need to talk about it. Um, and he'll really push me out of my shell to get me to open up about it. But we haven't really had a big blow up argument about anything of consequence. So for us, it's been really good. Um, Getting used to Gabriel being in school, I think, has been the hardest for him. Not to say that it's hard, but that's probably been the biggest difficulty. Um, getting used to him having to do homework, having to, go meet the teacher, go, anything like that. That's what he's been getting used to. And it's like I said, it's not hard. It's just that's what's been the hardest for him, or I guess the most out of the ordinary for him. So those are the differences that we've seen in regards to parenting, as a couple now. Even though Gabriel is my child, he has stepped into the role. Now, after we got married, that's whenever Gabriel started calling him dad. Before it, he called him Chris. Like that was it. Occasionally he'd call him Christopher, but most of the time, Chris. That was it. And after we got married, something changed where now he calls him dad or daddy. And he's never done that before. Now, early on, I don't know if it was I'm pretty sure it was after me and Chris started dating. Um, it was whenever Gabriel was older, so he was probably 6, 5 or 6 I wanna say 6 years old. Um, that his dad doesn't really come around much, he doesn't visit much. He asks for visitation and it's very fleeting. So he'll ask for a visit and then we won't see him for months, maybe even longer. So early on, I sat him I took him to, his favorite restaurant, took him to Olive Garden. And it was just me and him. We sat down and I explained to him the history behind his dad, who he was, what he was like, how things changed, and why we are where we are now. Um, and I didn't. I wasn't ugly about anything. Um, I make sure to not be really ugly about anything. I don't want to I don't want him to ever feel like I've swayed him any way or the other. I'm just very honest. So what I tell him is the truth. This is what happened. This is what was said. This is what was done. This is the result. So, early on, his dad was not always the way that he is now. He was, I would say, normal. Mentally, he was healthy. And I did explain, he does have a sickness, and I try to explain it in a way that he understands. So I explain, he has a sickness that affects his mind and his thinking, and that makes him think a certain way, and sometimes it makes him think wrong things, or it makes him think dangerous things. And those are things that we have to take into account. So moving forward, I explained to him that's why, whenever we see him, it's always at the police station, because police officers are safe. Police station is safe. That is a place where you should be able to feel safe. And we will always meet there. We will never meet anywhere else, regardless if he doesn't like it. That's where we're going to go, because that's where mommy can keep you safe. And I explained to him, he doesn't always want to visit. He doesn't always want to come around, and he'll ask why. And a lot of the times I don't know why. I don't know what he's thinking right now. So I can only guess. So a lot of the times what I have to tell him is I don't know why, but I think maybe right now he's just not ready to be a dad. And that's okay if he's not ready. But I always remind him that Chris loves you and he takes care of you. And even though he's not your dad, he loves you like he is. And early on, when I told him that, he understood. Once we got married, that's whenever he decided. I never told him, you have to call him dad. He made that decision on his own. So for him, Chris is dad. Um, Parenting Gabriel now looks a lot different than it used to. Um, I talk a lot of the decisions I make between me and his stepdad, me and his dad. I talk through, they wanted to put him in GT classes, and I talked it through. What do you think? Now, he still gives me a lot more leverage as far as the decisions that need to be made. But I try to include him in those decisions. So, what do you think? How do you feel? I try and include him in any of his schooling. So if he needs to study for a test, or if he needs to get homework done, or if he has a project that's due, I try and make sure that he's included in that as well. Because he's the parent. He's the other parent. So I rely a lot on him as a team to get that done. So parenting looks a lot different. Um, Now, once we got married, um, it just kind of became, you know, finding out what works and what doesn't, what routine works, what routine doesn't, what is going to be most efficient for us in this relationship as far as running a household and getting things done. And I think we did a pretty good job figuring that out. Now, right off the bat, we moved into the house that we were living in, and it wasn't shortly after that we ended up moving to the house directly next door, just because it was bigger. Now, the reason that we moved was because we got pregnant. That's going to be another story in and of itself. So, like I said, this one's going to be really short. It's pretty simple as far as getting married and parenting as a team. So, it's not me parenting Gabriel and Chris is on the side. We are now a team together, and our job is to raise Gabriel. So that kind of set us up for making the decision to have another child, to be become parents again. I had done it before, Chris never had. So that is where I'm going to leave this one. Pick back up where we left off on the next one. I appreciate you guys and I hope you enjoy. I'll see you next time.